You know that feeling when something big happens and you really want to cut through all the noise and just figure out what's actually going on?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, today, that big thing is Bitcoin hitting $100,000. I mean, just a little while ago, the question was, could it even get back to its old
And
highs?
now, bam, six figures. It really is a watershed moment, no doubt about it.
Totally.
And this isn't just about, a number on a screen. It feels like it could be pointing to a bigger shift in how the whole financial world is starting to look at digital assets.
Right. So we're digging into an article today called Bitcoin Hits $100,000. Is this the start of a new financial era?
Exactly. And our mission really is to unpack the why behind this huge surge, what drove it, and maybe more importantly, what could it mean for, well, for how we all understand the financial landscape going forward.
Okay, $100,000. It still feels a bit unreal, doesn't it?
It does.
When you look at why this happened, maybe so fast, what really jumps out at you? What's the main thing?
Well, what's really interesting is how a few pretty major trends all kind of came together at once.
Yeah.
The article gets this right. The massive wave of institutional investment. I mean, think about it. You've got huge Wall Street names like BlackRock, Fidelity, JP Morgan.
The big guns.
Yeah, the absolute giants. And they're not just like testing the waters anymore. They're treating Bitcoin as a serious long-term store of value, like digital gold, as the article puts it.
Digital gold.
Yeah.
Yeah, you hear that a lot now.
And it signals something important. This isn't just a quick trade for them. It seems like a strategic move, a real validation of Bitcoin from the heart of traditional finance.
That's a huge change in how people see it, isn't it?
Massive.
Yeah.
It changes the narrative. It's not just some, fringe tech anymore. It's becoming part of the mainstream conversation, which then influences regulators, other investors.
Yeah.
It's a whole chain reaction.
And it's not just talk, they're actually deploying serious capital. But then there's the access part too, right? Like, it's easier for regular folks to get involved now.
Absolutely. That's the other big piece. The U.S. government giving the green light to those Bitcoin spot ETFs,
Oh.
that was a game changer.
How so, exactly? For someone who isn't deep in the weeds with ETFs?
Well, think of an ETF like a basket you can buy on the stock market. Instead of holding, say, tech stocks, this basket holds actual Bitcoin.
Ah, okay.
So anyone with a regular brokerage account can now basically buy Bitcoin exposure just like they'd buy a stock. No need for crypto wallets, exchanges, none of that complexity.
Right, it removes that technical hurdle, that friction that maybe kept people out before.
Precisely. It integrated Bitcoin into familiar territory for millions of investors. And that definitely boosted demand, no question.
Okay, so big money coming in, easier access for everyone else.
Yeah.
What else? The article mentioned the halving too.
Yes, the halving. We can't forget that. It's a crucial part of the Bitcoin design.
Can you give us the quick version? What is it and why does it matter for the price right now?
Sure. So the halving is basically baked into Bitcoin's code. It happens about every 4 years. And it automatically cuts the reward that miners get for processing transactions in half.
So less new Bitcoin is created.
Exactly. It drastically slows down the rate at which new coins enter circulation, so it reduces the supply.
Okay.
Now, basic economics, right? If demand is going up, which it was, thanks to institutions and ETFs, and the supply of new coins is suddenly cut,
Price goes up.
price tends to go up. The article nails it, calling it a perfect storm. You've got rising demand crashing right into shrinking supply.
Wow, yeah. A perfect storm. It's amazing how these different forces just lined up.
It really is.
So it's clearly not just, hyper speculation driving this. There are real economic fundamentals at play here.
Definitely some strong supply and demand dynamics.
But this $100,000 mark, it feels heavier than just a number. The article talks about trust, power, and the future of money. Why does this milestone resonate beyond just the price chart?
Yeah, that's where it gets really interesting. You have to zoom out a bit and remember where Bitcoin came from.
The 2008 crisis, right?
Exactly. It was born out of that financial meltdown. There was this deep, deep distrust of banks, governments bailing them out. Bitcoin was proposed as this decentralized alternative, peer-to-peer cash, no central control.
Right. Free from the banks and the governments.
But here's the irony, isn't it? The very system it was meant to bypass Wall Street, the big financial institutions, is now increasingly embracing it, folding it into their own structures.
Huh. Yeah, that is quite a twist. The ultimate disruptor getting kind of absorbed by the establishment.
It raises fascinating questions about what disruption even means long-term.
So we see the economic drivers, but this milestone clearly taps into something deeper. Trust, power. future of money, like the article says.
And that connects directly to this global conversation that's happening right now about how we store value, how we grow wealth. It's not uniform either.
What do you mean?
Well, you see completely different reactions around the world. Some countries are actually exploring or even adopting Bitcoin as legal tender. That's a huge statement of belief in its potential.
Like El Salvador.
Right. But then, on the flip side, you have other major economies imposing really strict regulations or even outright bans. They're worried about control, volatility, illicit use, the impact on their own monetary systems.
So it's really polarizing on a global scale.
Very much so. And this huge range of responses just highlights how fundamental the questions are that Bitcoin is forcing us to ask about money itself.
So hitting $100 K, it's not just a headline number. It's like a global signal flare showing that Bitcoin's becoming this permanent fixture in finance, whether governments like it or not.
I think that's a good way to put it. It's undeniably becoming more entrenched.
Which probably leads right to the question on, well, probably a lot of listeners' minds right now. Okay, should I get in now or is it too late? Have I missed the boat?
Ah, yes. The $1 million or maybe the $100,000 question now. And look, there's no easy answer. The article's right to throw in some caution here because despite all this institutional buy-in,
It's still Bitcoin.
it's still Bitcoin.
Yeah.
It's inherently volatile. We're still talking about potential price swings of, 10% or even more in a single day. That hasn't gone away just because it hit a big number.
Yeah, that's a crucial reminder. Reaching this milestone doesn't mean it's suddenly a smooth ride up from here.
Not at all.
And the article points out, even the experts are all over the place on what happens next. You see these wildly bullish calls next to predictions of a crash.
Exactly. It's a really divided picture. Some analysts are looking at the continued institutional flow, the limited supply post-halving, and they're predicting, $150,000, maybe even $250,000 the next year or so.
Yeah.
But then others are pointing to serious potential headwinds. More government crackdowns, maybe. Or if central banks keep hiking interest rates, that could make risky assets like Bitcoin less appealing. So potential for a sharp pullback is also very real.
Okay, so for someone listening, trying to process all this, bullish calls, bearish warnings, what's the balanced takeaway? How should they approach this?
I think the article offers some really sound advice. First, the golden rule. Don't invest more than you can truly afford to lose. That applies to any volatile asset, but especially Bitcoin.
Absolutely critical.
But second, don't just ignore it either. You can't really afford to completely dismiss Bitcoin anymore. Whether you personally love it or hate it, believe in it, or think it's a bubble. It's clearly become a significant player in the global financial system.
So ignorance isn't really bliss here.
Not anymore. As the article kind of concludes, opinions vary wildly, but Bitcoin seems to be a permanent player now on the financial stage.
Right. So even if someone decides, okay, buying Bitcoin isn't for me, understanding why it's moving, what forces are shaping its path, that's becoming important just for general financial literacy, isn't it?
I'd say so, yes. Watching Bitcoin's story unfold gives you insights into much bigger trends.
Yeah.
Digital assets, decentralized finance, how the very idea of money is evolving. It's like a window into a really fast-changing world.
So wrapping up this deep dive then, Bitcoin hits $100,000. It really feels less like we've reached an endpoint and more like, I don't know, a major turning point.
I think that's exactly right.
And the article leaves us and our listeners with that big question to chew on. Is Bitcoin the future of money or just another bubble waiting to burst? What are your final thoughts on that big question?
Well, what makes it so compelling is that we genuinely don't know the answer yet. That's still being written. This $100,000 mark, it isn't the final word.
Right.
Instead, like the source suggests, it really feels like it might be the start of a new chapter, maybe a whole new era in finance, where digital assets just play a much bigger role.
A new financial era.
Yeah. Whether that means Bitcoin itself becomes the future money or if it faces major roadblocks, that story is still unfolding. But its significance seems undeniable now.
Definitely gives everyone, whether you're deep in crypto or just watching, a lot to think about. And it feels like things aren't going to slow down anytime soon in this space.
Not likely.
Thanks for digging into this with us. Really fascinating stuff.
My pleasure. It's a story worth watching, that's for sure.